The following is a breakdown of the greatest Smash Ultimate player of all time, MKLeo, and the strongest streak of his career. Throughout this period, out of the 17 tournaments he entered, he won 13 of them, and out of the 179 matches he played, he won 164. During this time, having a win over MKLeo was one of the most prestigious accomplishments an established player could have, as he only lost to 6 players for the nearly year-long period. Not counting players that were ranked in the top 10, he had only lost to 3, and not counting the top 20, there was only one player to beat him. But this player wasn't ranked in the top 30, 40, or 50. In fact, at the time of their legendary match, he wasn't even ranked at all. Many people may know who he is, but few know the story leading up to their match. This is the story of the mortal that slayed a Smash god. This is the story of Prodigy. It's 2025, and thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. If you're looking for the perfect holiday gift, Raycon's got you covered. In today's world, sound should travel as seamlessly as you do. That's where Raycon, with over 3 million customers, comes into play. Designed with all-day comfort, these sleek, wireless earbuds are able to deliver rich, balanced audio with an affordable price. With their open-ear design, you get quality audio without having to sacrifice hearing the world around you. So I've been using these earbuds recently, and they've been checking all the boxes for me. Because they feel really nice in my ears. As well, they've been really great to use in all my workouts, and they never fall out of my ears. As well, they have really fast charging, a 36-hour battery life, and the open-ear design, like all of those stuff, has been super convenient for my lifestyle, and honestly has me hooked. The essential open earbuds are here for the holiday season, and they're selling fast. Raycon audio products are up to 20% off this holiday season. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/7nicoopen to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. Order by December 15th in order to guarantee delivery by Christmas, because great gifts shouldn't show up late. Thank you once again to Raycon for sponsoring this video. At the dawn of Smash Ultimate, thousands of younger players dreamed of becoming the best player in the world. But unfortunately, nearly none of these people would even come close. However, with the support of his family, a 13-year-old Pedro Alonso, who at the time went by the tag of Prodigy, was determined to make his unrealistic dream come true. Near the end of Smash 4, he had some limited success, but far from what was required to even be remotely near his goal. And with Ultimate coming to be way more competitive, the battle for the top spot arguably became much more exclusive. Many of the very best players in Smash 4 that Prodigy idolized would continue their dominance into Ultimate, with the very best, as previously mentioned, being MKLeo. The hierarchy of Ultimate at its beginnings was more strict than most fighting games. As the months passed by, Leo cemented himself as the game's best player, with only a small group of players considered to even be capable of beating him. Prodigy was far from even being presented the opportunity at a battle with him, but perhaps in order to have a shot at the best, he had to beat one of the gatekeepers. 5 months into Ultimate, early in bracket at one of the game's first major tournaments, Prodigy was matched up against the best player from Europe, Glutonny, who hadn't lost a single set in his continent so far, and was considered one of the few players who could challenge Leo. The set, which seemed destined to be a blowout in favor of the European, wasn't even being recorded, until an upset seemed to be brewing. Prodigy, who at the time had only a handful of top 50 wins, and wasn't even the best player in his state, had taken the first game in a best-of-3 set. People started to crowd around the two in hopes of seeing something incredible. All the unknown Mario had to do now was just take one more game before Glutonny took 2, and his first step to becoming the best would be fulfilled. The second game wasn't very close, and the last one started to fall out of his favor as well, as Prodigy's electrifying playstyle with Mario was very hit or miss. But as everyone would find out, Prodigy wasn't the type of player to give up. On the cusp of an incredible comeback, Prodigy was only a couple percent away from sealing the deal with one of Mario's signature ladder combos, but blew his shot. At most other tournaments so far, he hadn't even had the opportunity to cross paths with top 10 players, but he knew beating one was a key barrier to being able to fight the very best. It felt like at his current rate of improvement, it would be a long time till another opportunity like that came upon him. But just 2 months later, after making it further in bracket, it would happen. And who better for it to be against? Prodigy's practice granted him another shot at the best player in Europe, and this time around, up on the main stage, he was determined to not let it go to waste. If Prodigy wanted a chance at this run back, he needed his up air combos to be on point, and to avoid Glutonny's own win condition, or perhaps more importantly, his nerves. As time went on, the game was neck and neck, until the player to get the next opening would likely take the game.
Alright, I like it. Nice to take the stall. He delayed his invulnerability frame. I landed a little bit later, and Glutonny couldn't get the F over. Solid hit further, just near past the 3-minute mark left. Wario just cannon. Yep, and he's doing his best. Wario's like, you know you have money. Give it to me.
2 months after their prior match, Prodigy had another opportunity to make his name known. All he had to do was keep it together. The problem is, on the verge of a massive upset, the last game is the hardest to close out. Glutonny had years of experience, countless comebacks, and dominant victories to fall back on, while Prodigy, who rarely played in out-of-state tournaments, had none of that, and had to prove that he belonged here. Being 1 game away from an upset, he was lost. Going into the final game, Prodigy took a minute to ground himself. If he spent the whole next game thinking about the weight of the moment, it would elude him again. So after receiving some advice, he decided to try to have all of his focus on the game, landing his own combos and avoiding all of Glutonny's traps. He was able to secure a 2-1 stock lead. Now, the match wasn't even as close as it was last time. He should have it in the bag. He got Glutonny up to kill percent, and all he needed was to land one of his kill moves in order to finally get to the next level. Still on paper, the odds were in the 14-year-old Prodigy's favor. He just had to close it out.
What could have been certain two, but two! Kicking out right before that final bell. Yo! What a jerk! My goodness!
For players of Prodigy's level, opportunities like such don't come often, which makes them uniquely painful to lose, especially when the win is right in their grasp. A casual player would see a lost match against a top player as a fun memory. A fellow top player would see it as another chapter in a long rivalry, but a player like Prodigy could see it as a rare opportunity that he squashed. How could he become the best player in the world if he couldn't even beat a top 15 player? Nearly everybody starts playing a game competitively with the fantasy of being the best player in the world, beating all the best players they have only seen on screen. But Prodigy was reminded for a second time about how for him, that was just a fantasy. For his coming tournaments, Prodigy wouldn't make any big waves, but would show gradual improvements. He would break into the global top 50 for the first time, leading to his best win against the ranked 13 player in the world, and a 7th place finish at Port Priority 5. But events like that would be contrasted with worse finishes at tournaments like EVO and the Big House, where he would place where people expected. Any matches he had against top players would end as expected, with most of them being swift 3-0s or 3-1s. But time after time, he kept showing up. Players like Prodigy keep the scene running. The players that don't get much attention or win any prize money from big events, without those players, the competition to be the best wouldn't be nearly as prestigious. The tag Prodigy gives an insight to what Pedro thought of himself. Having grown up idolizing the very best Smash Bros. Players and their stories, he saw himself as cut from the same cloth. Even though it was taking him longer than it should have, he was destined to be up at the top. Prodigy would continue to show up to big events, and occasionally make it far enough in bracket to be met by a top 10 player, but despite showing potential, no match would end the way he would have liked them to. The closest he came to making a major upset was at Mainstage 2019, where he was one game away from beating the number 9 ranked player, Void, but proceeded to lose 3 games in a row as soon as he switched to his main. If he was truly meant to be the best in the world, then maybe he shouldn't be having these poor performances. This time was one of reflection for him, where he truly questioned if his goals for his career were possible after repeatedly facing losses against players he felt he should be capable of beating. But regardless, he kept his belief in himself. Every time he faced a top player, he was getting better at dealing with his nerves, and adjusting his game plan to not be as easy to figure out for the next chance he would have. Prodigy wouldn't be ranked the following season, largely due to his poor record against higher ranked players. But he wouldn't let that be a reason to give up, and would still continue attending tournaments just as frequently. At the year's biggest tournament, Genesis 7, he would make a strong run all the way up to top 24, until he would get beaten by Mars, who would go on to upset MKLeo and prevent him from winning his 4th Genesis in a row. Aside from success on a smaller scale in his local scene, Prodigy still hadn't made any waves. Those closely familiar with the scene were aware of who he was and his level of success, but most casual viewers of competitive Smash still had no clue who he was. However, that was soon to change. After turning 15 years old, the next major tournament Prodigy would attend would be Frostbite 2020, a tournament nearly every single ranked player in the US would be present at. Soon after checking the seeding, he saw that if he was able to beat the rising star Riddles, he would have another shot to make his name known. Not against the best player in Europe, Japan, or the US, but the world. He was seeded to fight MKLeo. Prodigy wouldn't want to let this opportunity go to waste. In preparation for this match, he studied numerous matches of Leo against other top players. Picking up the Joker's weaknesses, few as they were, he came up with a game plan, starting from the stages he would pick, to numerous hard reads he would get to start combos and finish stocks. The morning of their match, Prodigy would practice against a different Joker player for hours. Whereas Leo wasn't even thinking about Prodigy, Prodigy was planning just for him. The match was soon to happen, but being realistic, even with the loads of preparation he had done, he had barely any chance of winning. Out of all the tournaments in his nearly year-long dominant streak, the lowest ranked player Leo had lost to was rank 19, with his matches against unranked players rarely ever being close. Only 3 times had he ever even lost a game at this point in bracket, let alone a set. Everyone likes to imagine themselves as making the big upset against the best player in the world, but in reality, nobody ever does, and those who get moderately close choke. Despite what history had to say, those close to him believed in him, as his father was sitting front row in the crowd, cheering for him from the start, and he started making moves.
I think now we're pretty much well aware of what Mario can do, but do we know the Prodigy? Do we know the Prodigy?
But he wasn't prone to his own errors.
Oh, the high recovery, yeah. I don't know how I feel about these high recovery.
Prodigy's leads weren't necessarily ever safe against Leo, not only because of his skill, but also because of Joker's comeback mechanic, Arsene. With each hit Prodigy landed on Leo, he got closer to activating it, and once activated, it opened the door to early kills and edgeguards that only favored Leo. So Prodigy's path to a win was narrow. He had to land a lot of high percentage combos, but then more importantly, close out stocks before Leo could take advantage of his own win condition.
Well, a little too early on the trigger with the forward smash against the back row forward.
Down 2 stocks to 1, Leo was looking for any move to close out the stock, but without Arsene, Prodigy was just too elusive, and took any opportunity he had to strike.
Anything off of his gun attempts too. I mean, I like the downward angle guns, but that's just ain't it. What? No! Are you kidding? No!
The set, which on the surface should have been a clean sweep for Leo, started to attract more attention. Members in the crowd were hyped to see a player take a lead against Leo so early in bracket, especially in such a manner. But as much of an accomplishment winning one game against Leo was, winning the next 2 were even more unlikely, as Leo had never dropped 2 games so early in bracket, and furthermore, he had never lost 2 games in a row to a player ranked out of the top 10 so early in the year. So all signs pointed towards Leo shifting back the momentum into his favor. But Prodigy will look at his friends and family for stability, and lock in for the next game. Leo would counterpick Prodigy to Smashville, in order to make it harder for Mario to hit his combos.
Alright, now I gotta hit the drawing board, man. I gotta figure some stuff out, so.
Yeah, I always give him props to MKLeo about that. He's been very mature.
Leo wasn't the type of player to fall apart. In fact, he was still rock solid,
Well, especially regardless of who lives in the region. And oh, the left wobble.
as he was able to bring the game right back to even. But Prodigy wasn't giving him any room to breathe, putting pressure on him off stage and contesting all of his ledge options.
Side special, both more guns, but it doesn't matter because one.
If there was a time to be nervous, it was now. But judging by his gameplay, Prodigy seemed to be anything but.
It doesn't matter right here, man. So look, I'm looking to take this game, sir.
All right, and I do like these platforms. Oh, goodness. Get a reset. Reset. Looking for that back air.
Oh,
He had to breathe.
Great bases, yeah.
Yo, he is going in on MKLeo. Is that a double two stop?
What the hell?
More people in the venue turned to watch the match, as the energy surrounding the stage started to shift. Prodigy wasn't just beating MKLeo, he was dominating him. Although he was extremely solid, Prodigy was actually very nervous, but instead of letting that be his downfall, he used it as fuel to play better. This was his moment. Thousands of players have had the opportunity he had, but almost no one made something out of it. A win over Leo here meant redemption. It would put him on the map and finally mean he could make it to the next level. However, Leo had been here. In fact, being down 0-2, he was still statistically favored to come back and win the set. Prodigy had also been in a similar situation, where he had let a major win escape his grasp.
I feel like he's still showing. And he's going back to Smashville, trying to use that platform and see what he can do with it. Game number 3, Prodigy just double two-stopped MKLeo. That is the strongest I've ever seen Leo lose.
Yeah, so got this one's gonna play out here. MKLeo looking to stay back a little bit further in the cut this time.
Goodness gracious.
God dang.
Every combo was a cause for the crowd to react, as Prodigy was getting closer to pulling off the impossible. Prodigy would take advantage of every small error that Leo would make, but this game was coming to be closer than the other two.
I feel like the combos coming out from Prodigy are looking very clean. But on the side of Leo, okay, all right. I take it back. I take it back.
Oh, okay, good. I get the gun by. He had himself covered with the cake. Good insurance right there. Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
The crowd was chanting for an upset, but it was up to the unranked 15-year-old Prodigy to not let Leo take over in order to make it happen.
Oh my God, don't touch me. Here.
He knew opportunities like this don't come often, so when they do, he had to make the best of it.
Case right here. Ledge trapping and guarding doesn't really seem to matter much right here. MKLeo trying to keep this match as close as possible. Now, if there was ever a time for MKLeo to strike and bring it back, it's certainly now. Only 46, 56%.
What
Oh
just
my
happened?
goodness! Prodigy! Oh my goodness! The fair off the right side of the stage.
After completing the upset, the crowd would go crazy, but most importantly, Prodigy would share the moment with his father, who was one of the few that believed in him going into the match. This match would go down as a statistical anomaly in Leo's most dominant stretch of his career, marking the first time Leo ever lost so early in bracket, but also the first time he ever lost to an unranked player. This narrative would attract so much attention that the video of the match is currently the second most watched Smash Bros set of all time. As for the rest of the tournament, Leo would go on to win the next 10 sets in a row against some of the best players in the world in order to win the whole thing, proving that today wasn't an off day for him. As for Prodigy, he would lose his next 2 sets and place 17th. Even though he didn't go on a Cinderella run to win the entire tournament, beating the greatest player at his strongest was its own victory. This match would effectively make a name for himself, to allow him to travel to out-of-state tournaments more often. As well, it would give him the confidence to greatly improve his results in future tournaments, leading him to get on the worldwide rankings once again, peaking at 11th. After 2021, Prodigy would change his tag to Kurama, citing that he felt like he grew out of the tag. At this point, he was simply in a different stage of life, and had felt like he had proven that he was no longer a young underdog, but rather somebody deserving of the title of top player. Sure, as of 2025, Kurama hasn't achieved his goal of becoming the #1 Smash player in the world, but perhaps being the guy to upset the greatest might have been even more satisfying.